enjoying this nice, warm, sunny day.
The weather's been beautiful. Yes, thanks for joining us for another episode of Continuing Community Through Technology. And we're really excited about today because we get to talk bubbles.
Yes.
And how much we love bubbles, and we got all dressed up in our sequins because we love to party with bubbles. So we're excited that you're here today, and we have a lot to discuss.
Yes. So today we're tasting our 2011 Brut. And this one is a wine club exclusive.
Yes. A mere 20 cases of this wine was made, and so it has been allocated just for Wine Club. So we are going to dive into that today, but also talk about all of the wines in our sparkling wine program. So yes. Sarah.
So we have the current one is our 2011 Brut, which is available. We are going to be releasing our 2011 Blanc de Blanc. And we have two library sparkling wines. One is the 2011 Blanc de Noir.
I love doing that. I had to do that today.
And then the last one was our there's no vintage, the sparkling Gamay Noir, which is a very fun one. A nice one from Facebook. The Facebook post yesterday.
Yeah, we did a little teaser with that one. That was actually a really fun side project. Red sparklings are not very common, and we had this Gamay that we were working with from a vineyard, and we had done some in barrel and also some in stainless steel over a couple years, and we decided to combine them and do a non-vintage sparkling. And we left that on terrage for 5 years. That was a really beautiful wine.
Yeah, I love it's sparkling Shiraz. So fun.
Yes,
I love that. But
yes.
I love how the Gamay Noir doesn't have that sweetness.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yes.
And I don't even know, Sarah, if you know this, but Jim's inspiration for that was time when he lived in Sydney.
Oh,
and enjoyed sparkling Shiraz.
Yeah, it reminds me of sparkling Shiraz, but it doesn't have the sweetness of sparkling Shiraz. Oh, I love it.
And it has a lot of Willamette Valley minerality to it, which is just a really nice terroir significance in that wine. So one thing that we're going to talk about diving into this wine is glassware. So some people feel really strongly about, I've got to show you guys these bubbles. They're just beautiful. We have really small, consistent stream of bubbles. And that's really important with sparkling wine. That denotes quality. And so I'm always very proud of that. And look at the bubbles.
Yes.
Sarah, what type of glass do you like to drink sparkling wine out of?
I love drinking it out of a coupe. I just think they're so fun. They're so cute.
They're the worst. They are the worst. I am Miss Shaking Hands, and I will spill 90%.
I do have to be super careful because they're just
like from here to here, and it's everywhere. But it's very traditional. It's very classy. It's very Gatsby.
Yes, I love about it.
Yeah. And I think there's an interesting, unusual rumor about
where the shape came from.
And you guys should look that up.
We'll let you look it up.
We'll let you look it up on your own, but
yes.
It's a little too racy for today's show. And so flutes, I know that flutes are a big go-to for a lot of people. I really like drinking out of a flute because it keeps the bubbles compact, although my nose is so big that I actually have to tilt my head back when I drink it, and so sometimes if I have the option for a larger glass, I will go with that so that I don't look as much of a lush, just like kicking it back. Pretty funny, one time a good friend of mine and I were out, and she's like, why do you keep doing that when you're drinking your glass? I'm like, my nose is too big. But a lot of sommeliers agree that using a large bowl glass is really going to let you enjoy the aromatics and the flavors of a sparkling wine. And I would agree with that.
Yes.
I
For
think
sure.
that there are a lot of really beautiful aromatics in sparkling wine that you miss if you're keeping it in a flute.
Yeah, because you kind of have, like, and then.
Yeah.
I guess I got so careful with
me.
everything.
Yeah, I know. I'm the one always spilling things. It's awesome. We're just so excited. We love
Yeah.
bubbles so much.
It's funny, Michelle and I have always been spats since kindergarten.
Yeah. Which is actually where we met.
Yes.
And, yeah. So when we get together, it's a little bit of extra spastic energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where did you first try sparkling wine? What?
Oh. You know, I learned about sparkling wine when I lived in New York and moved out there at the young age of 17 and started working in the PR and nightlife industry. And I learned about bubbles, and it was so fun and so wonderful. And I think why I love champagne and sparkling wine in general is it's something that brings people together and people celebrate. When they hear a cork pop, people just get excited, hands go in the air, people yell, people just are like, yes! And I love that. And so when I was working in this event industry and creating special moments for people and helping people celebrate their special moments, champagne toast is always a signature of that. And it's a moment where the room gets quiet and everyone toasts to someone. We have some wine club members who bring their father in during some of our wine club parties, and it's always his birthday. And we always
So
quiet
fun.
the room and make everyone do a toast and cheers because it just feels like the right thing to do, and it's so fun.
And I think this last
Yeah.
February was his 90th.
Yep, we turned 90 and we did another champagne
so
toast. And
awesome.
yeah, I love it. Love it.
Yes.
So that's one reason that I love bubbles so much is because it is a way for people to celebrate the end of the day. And in that industry, I had access to a lot of really amazing sparkling wine, especially early 90s Perrier Jouet, Dom Perignon, and Krug. And so I was able to enjoy those all on a regular basis. And I didn't really realize how luxurious that was until I moved back to Oregon and I was like, oh, we don't do that every day?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I love how you say celebrate the end of the day, because I would always, I'd have sparkling wine and I'd offer it to people and they'd be like, well, it's not a holiday.
No, everything is a holiday. Well, yes. The day that you are alive another day is a holiday.
Yes.
And celebrate
I
it.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's definitely, I love to have sparkling wine around all the time.
Totally. Me too. And it's really versatile with foods, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it just signifies, something celebratory, and people come together. And so that's why I fell in love with it, especially when I moved out to New York as a youngin' and was learning about cultures from all over the world and how they celebrate the end of a day. And one thing that was always common was sitting down for a meal, having great wine, popping a bottle, and listening to good music. And I think those are things that fundamentally bring us together as people. And I love it. So some of my favorite sparkling wines come from smaller producers, and those are noted as grower champagnes. Kind of similar to when we call a brand boutique.
Oh,
Here.
Uh-huh.
That means, 5,000 cases and under. It's actually a federal term for denoting your case quantity in terms of production. But over there, grower champagne is more about size and also sticking to the method champenois tradition. So our wines are method champenois. So that means that we create and make the wine. And so it's wine, it's still wine, so no bubbles, denoting still. And then it's actually put into a thicker glass like this, and it goes through an additional fermentation process in the bottle. And so that's what denotes method champenois. And that's something that is very different, very unique from what other brands do. And probably 70 to 80% of the bottles of sparkling wine that you will find on the shelf at the store are going to be forced carbonated. So that's where you just inject CO2 like you would soda pop.
So then the bubbles are a lot bigger, and
They are
it
bigger.
would tend to kind of lose its
Yes.
fizz pretty fast.
Exactly. So the bubbles are bigger, they dissipate faster, and they also create a different sensory experience on your palate, and they're a little bit clumsy, I think, but at the same time, I love a good forced carbonated sparkling if it's hot out. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not going to say I don't drink that because I totally do.
You just have to drink it a little faster.
A little bit faster. That's a great idea. I'll remember that next time. Sarah said that we have to hurry and drink this because we're going to lose the bubbles. And yeah, I just think it depends on kind of the time of day and occasion and whatnot. But I really love this Brut. So Brut, it denotes that we have Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in it. So it is a blend. This particular Brut is 50% Chardonnay, 50% Pinot Noir. So let's see, what sort of aromatics do we get? And there is a complete difference.
It's like sharper.
Yeah.
That's like.
Well, the flavors coming out, I would agree, they're a little bit more concise and there aren't as many. And in this glass, you really get a full bouquet of flavors. A lot is happening.
I get lemon zest.
Yes.
It's maybe like a tiny, tiny hint of vanilla.
Some vanilla, absolutely. I really like the undertones of kind of the yeastiness, the sourdough, kind of like that fresh sourdough coming from the bakery. I get little hints of that, and that's one thing that I fell in love with. It's a significant flavor profile in traditional champagne and grower champagnes, which was one of the reasons why we did the method champenois to try to get those flavors. And yeah, there's a lot of lively acidity in this. Lime, lemon.
Yes. A little bit of nuttiness.
Yes, nut for sure.
Almond.
Yes, almond, absolutely. And the finish is a little bit creamy. But it's also very acidic at the same time and very lively, and the very small concentrated bubbles really pop on the tongue. I love it. I love any sort of dish with this style of wine because it's a great palate cleanser, but it also contributes a lot of flavor.
One of my favorite things that we paired with the Blanc de Noir in the past was just the baguette.
Yes.
With butter and a little salt on
Salt.
it. Oh my
Baguette. Unsalted butter, and then you top with a crunchy salt. And with this, it's perfect.
It's so good.
Yeah. That is my perfect afternoon, like 3 o'clock on a Sunday. That's like.
Well, you have that great bakery.
We do. Yes, I actually had one of their baguettes this morning. Spoiled.
Yes.
Yeah. And sparkling wine is really versatile with food. I would find that the drier sparklings are more versatile as opposed to something that has sugar. I don't think you'd be able to sit down and enjoy that with, you know, a steak frites, for example, would be one of my favorites. For appetizers and salads, I love a good spinach salad with a goat cheese toast and a grower champagne that has those kind of yeastiness flavors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The herbs.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, those citrus notes make for really great pairing to any sort of fruit.
Oh yeah.
So fruit, crudité, all of that, it pairs perfectly with this.
Blueberries. Oh.
Yeah. All the berries that are in season.
Yes. Smoked salmon is also
Smoked salmon, absolutely. And if you can add anything like a caper or some dill to add a briny aspect to it to counterbalance the brightness of the acidity in this, I think those are really nice comparisons. Also, what about pâtés? Do you like pâtés?
I love pâté.
I like pâtés, yes. Yeah. And pâtés can come in all forms. You can, be vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, any of the above, and still enjoy a pâté. We've actually done that for a wine club party. We did a vegan pâté, and it was chickpea and asparagus and sun-dried tomatoes, and we used some gelatin and made like a layered pâté.
Also the mushroom one that Jim made.
Yes.
Porcini mushrooms.
Porcini mushroom pâté.
Oh,
yeah.
that was so good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it had like porcini mushrooms and hazelnuts.
Yes. Yeah. The crunchiness of the hazelnuts.
That was a really good one.
Yeah.
I love the there's this one that has little chunks of morels in it, and it's a duck liver.
Yeah.
Pate. That one, like super creamy.
I think they have that at Trader Joe's. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
I used to get it at Market of Choice, but they closed that Market of Choice. That was my
Oh no!
so sad.
I like their bakery. They do a great job.
Yes.
Especially with macarons. I love macarons and bubbles.
Yes.
The, delicious little French cookie that is buttercream in the center and kind of crunchy on the outside. That's a really fun sensory experience with sparkling wine. Yeah. Yeah, I love it with a good pâté as well. Not everyone goes that route, and you don't have to enjoy the meat pâté to enjoy that style. It can be made in any way. And you can actually make it at home too. It's not as daunting as it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you get super fancy and get some caviar.
Yes. Caviar, yes, for sure. Absolutely. Any sort of caviar or roe or
that salty.
Yes.
Yeah.
The saltiness is really key to counterbalance the bright acidity that you find in the citrus aspects of this Brut. Are you still getting an aromatic difference between the two?
Yeah, it's subtle, but.
So now that it's had a little bit of time in the glass, I'm getting more of those kind of textural, sourdough, yeasty creaminess notes. Kind of the secondary aromas are starting to pop out a little bit. And that's what I fell in love with when it came to grower champagne.
Kind of like a chalkiness too.
Chalkiness, yes. Yes, absolutely. So when I moved from New York back to Oregon, it was a pretty big culture shock for me because not only did daily life change, but people didn't sell. I was going out to dinner and I was looking at lists and I'm like, where's the sparkling by the glass? Where's the good stuff? And then I discovered not everyone has a cellar full of 93 Perrier-Jouet. Like, that's not a thing. But I ended up finding this really great wine shop that was across the street from my house, and they actually had a small group of people that did bubble night. So once a month, everyone would get together and either buy from the shop bubbles to share, or there would be a flight organized of a few different grower champagne bubbles to try. And that was at the Broadway, and I met people that I'm still friends with to this day that we talk about those wines, and I absolutely love it. I was introduced to a lot of great grower champagne producers. Perrier-Jouet was one of my favorite. Oh, I'm sorry, Pierre Peters was one of my favorites, and that's always a great one. Guy Charlemagne is also a really great one, and I would say that those two would be really good benchmark comparisons at what we were looking at when we were creating our sparkling wine program and looking for a finished product comparative, this to that. Those kind of were the benchmark, something in between those two on the spectrum. And I'm really excited. I think we nailed it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
How long can you age a sparkling wine?
Oh,
Or like
30,
Would
40
you-
years.
not that I
It's only going to get better. I know.
could never keep one.
So this is a 2011. That's something that we didn't talk about yet. It's a 2011, and we just released it last year.
April, yes.
Last April. So we waited a long time. That's a 9-year investment on the making of a wine. And the longer that you wait, the better it gets.
And the Blanc de Blanc is a 2011 as well.
Yes. And we're going to be releasing that in August, which I'm really excited
Yes.
about. Oh my goodness. Yeah, maybe we should talk about that now.
Yeah. So that, yeah, has been aging quite a while.
It has. So it's a Blanc de Blanc, so it's 100% Chardonnay, and that is not going to be a member exclusive. So we will be releasing that wine to everyone. And tomorrow, if you're on our newsletter, you'll receive an invitation to make a reservation for that event. When we released the Method Champenois member exclusive Brut, we did 3 days of what we called our bubbly soiree. So sequins, bubbles, celebration, all the fabulousness we like to create that goes with that. With kind of the new world that we're in these days, we need to create a safe environment for everyone, and that means lowering numbers. So what we're going to be doing is essentially taking reservations for a private party.
Right.
Much of how we do our regular tastings, but upping it a little bit, making sure there's enough space, minimizing our capacity. And we're not quite sure how the food is going to look like for that event.
Right.
But
we're
we're
still kind of in the middle of figuring out.
Yeah, but we're
What
still going to
exactly,
do
yeah.
some great pairings like we've done in the past. Because that's also the fun of sparkling wine, is pairing it with food. It goes great with everything, and I think that when we showcase really different flavors and how the wine just goes seamlessly with that, that's a really fun experience. So we will be doing that. It's just going to look a little bit different. So we will be calling it our soiree as well, but it will be more like a private soiree.
Yes.
Or like, you know. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll extend hours and make sure we have enough time for everybody to join that wants to, and
Yeah,
for everybody to be at a safe distance
exactly.
as well.
And at this point in time, it's going to be a 2-day event, but we are staffed and prepared to extend the event throughout the week for people whose schedules may not align with that weekend. So the reservation link that we send out, you're going to be able to work with us and figure out a date, even if it's a few days after the initial release weekend. Because we love a really great reason to pop bottles. So if we can do that for the whole month of August, we will.
Yeah, we totally will.
Yeah.
So is there another plan for sparkling in the future besides the Blanc de Blanc?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Blanc de Blanc will conclude our initial first wave of the 4 sparkling wines that we made on the Black Label series, but that we will be having a non-Method Champenois rosé coming out, as well as some plans for the future. But it does take 8 years for us to feel comfortable with the quality of a Method Champenois wine for us to release. So that's remains to be seen. Because it is a long-term investment. If you're looking for that flavor profile of quality, it's something that you need to really have the patience for. And I think we've all learned that in the Black Label series, when Jim makes the call to hang on to a wine and not release it for 10 years, it ends up fabulous, and it's really great. Yeah.
These are excellent.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
It's just like creamy but bright, and that lemon zest you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminds me, so when my first experience with champagne was in France.
when
Yes.
you were 20. Oh my gosh.
I was so lucky. My mom had a trip with her friend planned, and it was supposed to be my mom and then her friend and her mom. And her friend just decided, she wasn't comfortable flying yet because it was, I think, a year after 9/11. She just wasn't quite comfortable.
Oh yeah, I didn't get on a plane for
Yeah.
a long time too. Yeah.
I know, but I was like, oh, I'll go. Yes.
Trip
Yeah.
to Champagne? Yeah.
Yes. And my mom has always loved sparkling wine, and that's, I'm sure, where I got it from. But yeah, I have always looked for, I really want something to taste like what I had there. And
Right.
this is probably like one of the closest
Oh wow.
I've come to
Awesome.
find,
That's amazing. Yeah. You're so lucky to be able to go there and have that be your first introduction
Yes.
to sparkling
Yes.
wine. Yeah, they have all that chalkiness and the limestone, and it just creates a really nice flavor profile, I think, for the wines. It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
when I got back here, I was just like, nothing's ever gonna taste like that. There's a couple that kind of, but yeah.
But that's one good thing to point out. I don't know if we touched on this earlier, but a lot of U.S. produced domestic champagnes are made to be consumed kind of earlier in life, in their shelf life, and have a significant amount of sugar at the end.
Right.
They add an amazing amount of sugar at dosage to appeal to the domestic palate.
Right, and that's like one thing about me is I don't like sweet things. I don't eat very many sweets. What? Like,
how?
and fruit, I'm just like,
What?
I love salt. Like salt, I'll go for salt every time.
So you're a savory flavor
Yes.
profile person.
And I love tart things like a sour beer. I love.
Got it.
But yeah.
And some of the really complex, layered grower champagnes have really strong savory notes to them.
Mm-hmm.
Even so far to go as saying, anchoviness or boquerons or things that are kind of blow your mind that flavor would be in the wine, but they lean on that savory side.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they're so popular. Definitely. That's cool. Yeah, I think also if we're talking desserts, things like macarons are always excellent. Some people don't enjoy those. Any sort of sorbet
Oh yeah.
that has like a really cold concentrated flavor that's freshly made, like a fresh juiced sorbet would be great. Chocolate as well. Again, back to the flourless chocolate torte.
Oh, yeah.
That's always one of my favorite pairings is that and this Brut. Yeah, absolutely. Hands down, one of my favorites. Especially if you're having the one from Tina's in Dundee, because that's delicious. They have it on their menu right now, and they're doing a Pinot Noir reduction coulis as the dressing, and it's spectacular. So I think we pretty much established you can have any type of food with the Brut.
And you can have it any day of the week.
Any day of the week.
You don't have to be.
You don't
It
have to
doesn't have to be
celebrate.
a holiday.
No, it doesn't. No, it
You
doesn't.
can just celebrate being alive.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, speaking of, this reminds me of a beautiful story that I meant to share earlier, but Jim and I love to vacation if and when we can, which is rare. It only happens once every couple of years, to the North Shore in Kauai. And there is a chef there that does farm-to-table dinners, who is a Michelin-starred chef who has retired from the limelight, surfs all day, goes up and forages in the hills, and then creates a delicious 8-course meal for you. Yeah, it's stunning. And you're outside and the backdrop is the Nepali coast. It's one of our favorite experiences when it comes to food and wine, because it's so elegant and so simple, and nature is just there with all its beauty. When we went last year, we were able to sit next to this couple from California, and she had a little baby bump, And so we were telling her all about the wines that she could not enjoy. But we sent her with a bottle of our Blanc de Noir for them to celebrate. And I got the sweetest email about 2 weeks ago that they had popped the bottle and they were holding their 1-year-old. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little teary-eyed because it's sparkling wine, kind of that celebration and those moments, it brings people together and it creates memories, and I think it's really fantastic. So that was just, one moment that a few years later kind of came back and came to fruition.
Oh, I bet they were so glad that they were sitting next to you.
It was good. It was really sweet. Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah, it was really special. And yeah, that just kind of comes back to what we've been saying, is that you can have sparkling wine anytime and create those moments. I know I've had some moments recently with everything going on in 2020 where I've been like, all right, let's create our own joy and let's create our own moment of happiness, because nothing else is creating that for us. And you have to make your own joy. So
and you can't be sad when you're
You
drinking.
cannot be sad when you're drinking sparkling. You at least have to stop praying while you're putting the glass to your face. Excellent. And another thing that we need to point out, we have so much to talk about sparkling wine, is this Brut was mentioned in Peloton magazine in what month?
In May.
In the month of May, when we were on the cover of Oregon Wine Press, as a Mother's Day recommendation. And that was really fun and a huge surprise, and we felt really fortunate for that. And it generated some new customers and new wine club members, and we're thankful for that it expanded our horizons. Yeah. So we're really enthusiastic to release the next and last installment of this Method Champenois series that was created in 2011 in August, and we'll be sending out invitations to join us for that release weekend. Yeah, and we're going to continue to create as many safety precautions as we can for guests here on a current regular basis and into the future.
Yes, and thank you for bearing with us and being so understanding.
Yeah,
it's been great.
It has been great, and guests have been really supportive.
Yes.
And understanding that it does take extra time. And Sarah wipes down your credit card when she hands it back to you, things like that I think are really important. For some people, it's not as much of a concern, but for some of us, like myself, it's a huge concern. So please know that we're always trying to create and follow precautionary measures to ensure that everyone comes here and leaves here safely and healthy. And we're going to continue to do that and try to create as much of a bubbly soiree vibe as we can while doing that. And Sarah's always here with her bubbly, happy self. Always. Yeah, we're so fortunate for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think I covered everything. I know we ranted quite a bit.
Can you tell we like
We
sparkling
like the
wine?
bubbles. They're fabulous.
All right, so next week we have a fun one.
Okay.
We have our 2007 Johann Vineyard.
Library wine. We're going to dive into the 2007. This is Sarah's favorite wine.
Yes.
So
it is so good.
It is really delicious. There's a lot that we'll have to talk about. That vineyard is a biodynamic vineyard site, and that's a really great example for us to share what some of those farming practices are. That was a vintage that received a lot of controversial press when it first happened, but is now a highly sought after Pinot Geek year.
Yes.
And we're going to be able to showcase, a wine that is over 10 years old and still lively and beautiful, because that's the style of wine that we make to age. So that we'll also have a lot to talk about then too.
Yes.
And if you don't have one of those wines, it's up on our website and you're able to purchase it before the show. And we do have local delivery as well as curbside pickup. And you contact us anyway, phone, email, social media, and we'll get one in your hands.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.